Hey, good afternoon everybody. I thought it was time I did a little video on chronic fatigue syndrome, or at least some of the understanding I have of it, since I pretty much have it. When I say pretty much, I go to a specialist that doesn't necessarily diagnose which type of immune issues you have, because he cuts to even greater root causes, which tend to involve your immune system and digestion and the overall functioning of your endocrine system. And I'll jump ahead to one of the other conclusions that I'm going to throw out there in transition after this video, which is neurologic. For so many people, there is a neurologic component to why they cannot fight some of these bugs. But everybody's similar in that they have a cocktail of toxins in their body, and they're going to react to them differently. So it's not easy to paint with a broad brush in these situations. But there's some very interesting things I've discovered in my research regarding chronic fatigue, and it's also kind of been reclassified now as chronic fatigue immune dysfunctional syndrome, or CFIDS. And so for anybody that maybe isn't familiar with that yet, or is new to chronic fatigue, I think it's cfids.org. But yes, you can still get plenty of information on chronic fatigue syndrome as well. What I discovered before I even understood that I had chronic fatigue is this specialist that I go to. He doesn't take insurance. He uses a CRT as one of his 3 primary diagnostic tools. Now, I don't understand his other 2, but the CRTs are German technology, which was introduced here in 1998 and passed the FDA standards. Well, it had to. This stuff is so incredible, the way it encapsulates about 1,000 different points on the body into a representation of about 100 points out of those 1,000, and it measures galvanic skin responses between a temperature point on your skin in a static state when you first sit down in the room with your clothes on, and they put temperature sensors in all the same places. Then you strip down to your boxers for 10 minutes and get used to the cold. Then they take the same readings 10 minutes later, and the way your body responds in this loop of between your neurologically speaking and everything else, they can put together how your entire system, endocrine, digestion, sinuses, lungs, sexually, I mean, you name it. This thing spills out graphs where each section is something the doctor can read, and he puts together this whole scenario of what your cascade of events is. And after 9 years of chasing health through a multitude of means, both traditional and non-traditional, I'm going to say that the neurological component is the one component that he won't address, that you can go to another specialist for. And I'm alluding to where I'm going with it after this video. So I may ramble a little bit, I may jump it off at topic for a minute, but I'm going to go back to CFIDS. What factor do a lot of people with immune disorders have in common, other than, low thyroid and allergies, sinus problems, digestive problems? Well, it turns out I was diagnosed not with chronic fatigue syndrome originally. I had to basically ask after I did some research. Well, the best of my ability, doc, it looks like I've got chronic fatigue syndrome. And Mycoplasma pneumonia, or Mycoplasma chlamydia, and it has nothing to do with chlamydia, the STD, by the way. And no, Mycoplasma pneumonia is not walking pneumonia in this case. I'm talking about bacterial infections, systemic infections of mycoplasmas. Now, if you look up mycoplasmas, they are the smallest, I guess, single-celled bacteriological agents that invade cells and disrupt them. So I would imagine, just based on that knowledge alone, it can easily lead to growth of out-of-control things too, perhaps. Yes, I'm alluding to the big C word, because I'm sure that's one of the steps in the cycle if you go down that path too far, I'm afraid. So it turns out Mycoplasma pneumonia, Mycoplasma chlamydia, and there's one or two others that all have this basic super, super, super small bacteria. It's a combination. Like the root of the word is myco for mycoplasmas. Myco is, of course, fungal in nature, which, of course, we know is another huge problem in the cascade of events from our diet, is your over-acidity that's created. And then, of course, after that over-acidity, you have the Candida albicans fungus, which gets out of control so easily in so many people, both men and women alike, and in your digestive systems, and not just in female reproductive system. So, going back to this, Mycoplasma pneumonia, it turns out, is a common factor among people with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, lupus, Lyme disease, multiple sclerosis, again with the neurological component, which I'm not going to address in this video, it'll be another video. So anybody with loved ones or friends or family or whatever that is suffering with any of these seemingly untreatable and only manageable in the disease management system of Western medicine, I urge you to do some research about these tie-ins to mycoplasmas and do the research on where mycoplasmas have come from. It opens up a whole new can of worms, and if you're not, quote, awake yet, if you just do the research on where mycoplasmas came from, it will assist in waking you up. Because, of course, I'm alluding to the fact that this is... most people in the population probably have these mycoplasmas in them. The problem is they lie dormant until a traumatic or stressful time in somebody's life, and then they can start easily taking over. And what they do is they infiltrate the most easily infiltratable areas of your body, areas in which maybe the nerves aren't communicating properly with your brain. Now, again, I'm alluding to what I mentioned a minute ago that I won't touch upon in this video, which is the ultimate neurological component and how you can get your body to fight this stuff better. Regardless of nutrition, regardless of detox, and regardless of everything, if you don't do this, your body may never assimilate all that nutrition you throw at it, which is what I've discovered personally after 9 years of, hate to call it an obsession, but it's been a great education nonetheless. Okay, so I've given people an idea that they may not have been familiar with about researching mycoplasmas and their relation. You're not going to get that research on the CDC's website, though it's nice that the CDC acknowledges chronic fatigue syndrome and CFIDs. Thank God. And no, it's not in your head. I don't even want to get into complaining about the last 12 years of my life or more, from the time I realized I just wasn't right and didn't have the energy and didn't have the focus and or anything else to continue high stress careers. So I think that's a good place to cut it off. All right, anybody that's listening, thank you for listening. I would like to discuss next the most important factor in health beyond all the treatments. It's just a cause for the cascade of events that occur in your immune system and becoming susceptible to all these environmental stressors that we are immersed in. All right, goodbye. See you in the next round.